Council meeting to order. Motion to adopt the agenda with one late item. The late item being the letter from the regional district. Move. Those in favor? Motion's carried. Now, before we get on with our delegations and the rest of our meeting, we have a special presentation this evening. Our Deputy Corporate Administrator, Shelley Russworm, has been hard at work outside the office on her own time studying for certificates in local government service delivery. So we got word a few weeks ago that she received that certificate. The Board of Examiners are granting her that certificate in local government service delivery in recognition of the fulfillment of the requirements for her certificate with all the rights and privileges in accordance with the regulations the Board made pursuant to the Local Government Act. So that's signed and sealed in Victoria as of October 1st. I'd like to present that to Shelley, and congratulations on all your good work. Well done.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the town and council on a whole for just giving me this opportunity to take these courses. It's a great program, great bunch of people, and I appreciate it.
Keep up the good work. Well done. I understand your daughter and your mother and father. All right, now we'll make them sit through the really exciting stuff. Now, seriously, we do have some good delegations this evening. The first one will be from Crime Stoppers. I understand Tom Gray isn't able to attend. We have Stuart Hartman and some other people here from Crime Stoppers. Welcome, Stuart. And you take the podium there. And you have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Thanks very much. Thank you for the privilege of permitting us to make this presentation to you today. We should be reporting to you periodically because we are a community resource, a very important factor in making the Comox Valley a safe place in which to live. The Comox Valley Crime Stoppers organization has been in existence for 25 years. During that time, our tips line has received thousands of tips, and many of those tips have been used to bring criminals to justice. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of stolen property has been recovered, and over $18 million of narcotics have been seized. The Crime Stoppers brand is one of the most recognized brands in the province. But we aren't just a tips line. Our website is very popular. The most wanted pictures that appear regularly in both local newspapers are highly effective in locating fugitives. And from time to time, we run advertising campaigns that target specific offenses or types of offenses. While we still get most of our tips by phone, more and more are coming by way of our website or texting. The next step for us will have to be a social networking presence. Our board of directors has 11 members at present, and all of them have had to pass criminal record checks. Anonymity and confidentiality are essential to our success. For many years, our organization received an annual grant from the gaming branch of the provincial government. But the last such grant in the amount of $17,000 was received in 2010. Since then, we've been without any significant funding source, and as a small board, it is difficult for us to raise funds. One community event that does provide us with some revenue is our annual Breakfast with Santa at the Courtney Legion. It's very popular, family friendly, and this year it's on November 23rd starting at 8 a.m. Of the numerous provincial Crime Stoppers organizations that I have talked to recently, the only one that receives provincial funding on a regular basis is Greater Vancouver Crime Stoppers, which receives money under a regional program. But Vancouver Crime Stoppers also has other funding sources, including per capita grants from each of the municipalities that it serves, and it's quite a large area that didn't right out into the Fraser Valley. Province-wide, more and more Crime Stoppers organizations are receiving a significant portion of their funding needs from local governments. Without much revenue coming in, we've had to cut our expenses wherever possible. Unfortunately, one of the easiest areas to cut has been our advertising spending, and I suspect that has had an adverse effect on the number of tips we are receiving. Fortunately, earlier this year, we received a one-time grant from the Civil Forfeiture Branch of the Provincial Ministry of Justice in the amount of $5,000 for what we call a School and Community Engagement Plan. This allows us to develop a series of posters, pamphlets, and other messages to encourage young people that they can make a difference towards a safer and fairer society, and that Crime Stoppers can be one of the tools that they can use when necessary. We do get a lot of tips, and even in 2012, which was one of our poor years, we received well over 200. Not all tips are useful, but many of them are, and some are exceptional. I hope that Tom Gray, our vice chair, was going to be here to tell you about this, but he has an issue with some animals as a gentleman farmer, so I've tried to take his notes and fill in a few things for you. We can't tell you about a lot of the tips, but these are some that apparently we can. Because of confidentiality requirements, I can't tell you too much about them, but Tom Gray, vice chair, has given me a few things to mention. A lot of tips do relate to the production of narcotics and drug trafficking, and many of those tips greatly assist the drug section. In 2012, we had 12 grow-up tips. This year, we received a tip that was very informative and resulted in the arrest of a major drug trafficker in Cumberland. A lot of tips are about people featured in our most wanted pictures and are very effective in capturing them. Some of these people are frequent offenders who need to be either in jail or under close scrutiny. But we also get tips on just about any type of crime you can imagine, ranging from mischief to arson, sexual assault, armed robbery, even murder. Crime Stoppers stresses that if you see someone driving impaired, that you should call the police, not the tips line. Nevertheless, in the last year, our tips line received information regarding 2 habitual impaired drivers that resulted in the prosecution and removal of those 2 dangerous drivers from our roads. A tip was received regarding a person with mental health issues who was in possession of a gun. The person was carrying it on their person and waving it around. As a result, a search warrant was executed and the firearm was successfully recovered. A recent tip was about a recurring theft of fuel and tools from a facility owned by a public institution locally. There had been no prior knowledge of the thefts, and once the public institution was notified, they found that there had indeed been thefts and were able to take measures to prevent any further losses. Several tips were received regarding the identity of a suspect of the robbery at the 7-Eleven this year. These would have been crucial in solving the crime had the suspect not turned themselves in. So we have time constraints, so I'll say thank you again for letting us appear before you. We've heard that you don't give out grants and aid, but we know that what we do is very important, and we hope you can find some way to support us. We are hoping that we can raise around $12,000 from local government. We were getting 17, as you'll note from the gaming branch, but we're a very careful board, and we think with what other revenue that we can raise, that would carry us through. And we are also going to be doing a mail-out campaign to local businesses and professions. We don't expect to get a lot in that, but Campbell River had considerable success, and so we're going to give it a try. It's very cost-effective to do that. And finally, I would like to publicly thank the media, especially the 2 local papers. Their help is crucial to our success. They give us lots of good publicity and free advertising, and we're very grateful for it. So we're open for questions.
Councillor Gingrich.
Stuart, do you think that this is a one-time thing that you've been cut off? Is your funding likely to be restored? And was there some rationale, like did you guys get, was it just you locally that got cut off, or was it a broader?
As far as I know, we were the last Crime Stoppers organization, other than perhaps Vancouver, that was receiving money under that particular program. We had a good relationship with the caseworker or the contact person, and she was very good to us. One of the rules that they have is that you can't have on hand at the end of the year any more than half a year of your expected revenue for the next year. We're a very frugal and careful board, and we won't just spend money just because we have it. So they seized on that as the reason that they couldn't carry on giving us money. We had anticipated that because we saw that other Crime Stoppers organizations weren't getting that kind of money, that we could be cut off. And we didn't want to risk spending down what surplus we had just so that we would satisfy them, and then when we were cut off, we'd have a very short time, not nearly enough time to try and find other funding sources. So we don't make any apology for being careful with the money that's given to us.
Any further questions?
Did you have something, John?
No.
No, go ahead. No, I was just wondering, I know that the city of Courtney suggested that this may be a regional issue, and that maybe going and looking for funding at the regional district may be an avenue for you to try, and that we would all pay into through that function anyway. So just reiterate what Courtney said, that may be a good idea for you guys to.
We do see this as a regional obligation or function. And early in the year, we did apply to the regional district under their grants and aid program, not knowing that that was just money that was from the three regional districts, A, B, and C, and that most of that money is already committed for various organizations and in small amounts. So when I saw the news item on it, I realized that that wasn't where we should be applying.
Mm-hmm.
So we heard Courtney, and they were very good to us at their meeting, and they suggested this, and we're not adverse to doing that because we do think that is the logical place for the money to come to. So we are prepared to make an appearance there, and I did actually pick up a request for an appearance at the regional district offices on Tuesday in case our board approves it, in case we get a similar situation here. What we do need is to have some secure source of money.
One of the challenges with that is, certainly for that amount involved, the administrative cost of doing that through the regional district is well, it'll be what it is. It usually involves administration fees, so it might be more efficient to just do it cooperatively.
Okay.
I mean, we do that on a contract basis with pesticide awareness and stuff, so that might be an option, but I'm sure that the regional district will hear you out and suggest those different options, and we'll consider it in our budget deliberations one way or the other. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, next delegation is Richard Iredale and Gail Davies are here regarding the applications for 1805, 1823 Beaufort Avenue. So come forward to the podium and welcome. Welcome, Gail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors. Richard Iredale and I are here to speak about the proposed development at 1805 Beaufort Avenue, specifically with respect to the points that have been raised in the report that's coming before council today. So it's not meant to be a discussion of the development in its entirety, but just addressing the particular points. And I will be speaking to the rationale for locating the hotel on the main floor of the development and the economic feasibility of such a hotel. And Richard Iredale will be addressing the technical points that have been raised. The 2012 official community plan for Comox provides for commercial use only on the main floor of the development and does not provide for any residential use on the main floor. It does allow for residential use on the upper two floors of the building, in our case, upper two floors of the prospective building. Prior to submitting our application, we had some discussions and meetings with the planning department and discussed the best location for a hotel element in the development and whether the building could include residential use on the main floor. In the end, we were advised that this would require an amendment to the official community plan. Since the OCP is relatively new and was developed as a result of a vast amount of research and public input, we were reluctant to ask for an amendment to the OCP as it seems likely to us that it would meet with strong opposition. However, in order to make the development economically feasible, we need to include approximately 40,000 square feet of residential space. So if there's no residential on the main level, then we need the upper level space for the residential units, which would leave the entire main level for use as a hotel, spa, and restaurant. These are the plans that Richard Iredale has put together and that we brought to our last public meeting. And we didn't hear any objection about the hotel being on the main level. Tourists come to Comox to enjoy the outdoors and the amenities of the Comox Valley, and they arguably spend a relatively small amount of time in their hotel rooms. The hotel experience begins with walking into the lobby and being met by beautiful West Coast architecture and friendly staff. The experience continues when the guests are ushered to their luxurious rooms with high ceilings and a host of amenities. It is proposed that the hotel will have a restaurant and spa, as I've already said, and these, combined with the ability to come and go easily, make the hotel work for families as well as for business people. It's my submission that the economic viability of a hotel is largely dependent on the local tourism market and is not dependent on the location of the rooms. We see the prospective hotel as being perfectly located for harbor air customers, boaters, people using the yacht charter company, the military, general public, and visitors to Comox. Tourism indicators for the Comox Valley are good and show that the hotel would be economically viable.
Thank you, Great.
Just show a few pictures to go with that. Thanks, yeah.
So, hello everybody, and I'm Richard Iredale. Thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation to you this evening. The plan of the hotel, I'll just walk back through with you if I can quickly. Here's an image that we showed at public meeting earlier of the hotel as seen from the park and from the water, and it's basically the view of the hotel with the main entry right here, which actually comes up through a courtyard that opens right up down to the parking level. And that courtyard, we kind of made central feature of the design so that the people arriving at the hotel through the parking area, which will be most of the guests, will be drawn to a kind of open, well-lit landscape courtyard that's actually at the level of the parking area. So and all the sort of 5-minute parking and drop-off and taxi pickup for the hotel will actually be at that level in the parking area, parking level of the hotel, which is one level down you can't see here. But from the point of view of someone arriving, they'll be drawn to that glassed-in lobby, and I think it makes a very welcoming arrival for them without impinging on the public park in front of the building. That is, without requiring visitors to the hotel to actually use that park for their vehicles. The design of the building is really intended to highlight West Coast timber construction. There's a real emphasis on timber frame construction. We're using stone veneer. We're taking it to on the lower floors of the building to give it a kind of a sense of robustness and classical beauty. We've got a lot of landscaping around the building, and we're actually taking advantage of the planter that currently sits right there and looks onto the park area to set a sort of plinth for the building. And so set it a little bit up and a little bit back away from the park. I'll just try to quickly walk through the plans with you so you have a kind of understanding of the design of the building, and then I'll look for a moment to the technical points raised by the planning department review of the design. Looking then to the, essentially it's a 4-story building with a parkade below grade so that the is 3 stories above grade. The parking level is shown right here in this plan, and one comes in this way and basically parks here at visitor parking that leads you directly through a glass wall into this area, which is actually open to above. So you'll arrive in a 2-story glassed-in atrium space. There's a big masonry wall that drops down through both floors. It has a waterfall coming down it, and you'll be drawn to come up the open stairs to the entry desk right here at the level above it. So this is kind of a volume with a waterfall coming down it. That's very visible to the parking as you come in through here to, I think, create that sense of drama and welcome that one wants in a hotel. The parking for visitors and for marina users is all here, and the parking beyond the security gate here will be for the owners of the apartment users of the apartments on the upper 2 floors of the building. So there's a kind of a let's say a security step at this point to allow basically the public to come and go easily, but the residents to have a secure parking. The main floor of the hotel is essentially the hotel units here, the atrium lobby here, the spa behind it. I'm sorry, all you folks can't quite see my pointing here. Just trying to give a general feeling for the lay of the land. And then the restaurant itself, which opens onto a patio that overlooks the marina there. And then the upper 2 floors are apartment units that will be available for purchase by, turn this so that it has the same orientation as the plan I just showed you. So the upper 2 floors contain apartment units that look out. These ones look out very nicely at the water. These ones look out the park in that direction and over towards the Sound and Vancouver Island Mountains to the east here. And they're typically, some of them are 2-bedroom, or they're all either 1 or 2-bedroom apartments, and reasonably spacious, 900 to 1,100 square feet in size. The comments that we've received so far from the from planning, thank you very much to Gail and to Marvin for the hard work they put into this project, and they've raised some very important comments, which I talked to briefly because they're part of the report to council tonight. If I could, I'll just go through them. The question about the location of the hotel units, whether there's any advantage to perhaps positioning them on the upper 2 floors. Gail, I think, has spoke to that very effectively. The hotel itself really operates very well as a 1-story hotel with very easy access from the lobby to these hotel rooms. One of the questions that was raised in the planning review is the access to the hotel being done in such a way that somebody who arrives the first time and doesn't quite know where to go can park without having to necessarily park in the marina park itself. So what we will do, I think, to respond to that comment is add some more surface parking here on the north end of the hotel that's clearly marked for hotel 5-minute arrival parking. And those people that do choose to park there, even though we will have signage indicating that the hotel entrance is to come in underneath and park by the lobby here. But if somebody doesn't see that sign, they can park instead up there. And then there's a public sidewalk that will bring them down here and into the entry to the hotel that will be very clearly signed and lit. Given the shape of the site, the fact that we essentially are a long, thin site that joins a park, there's not that much you can do with car access to the site. You have to, except the fact that that it's a very easily accessible site on foot and by bike, and getting to the building by car is going to be a little less than super easy. But I think by having surface parking here at this end, directing people to walk down the sidewalk and in the entry here, or alternatively by having very clearly defined parking at the parking level, directing you into the hotel lobby, it will be in fact quite easy to find your way there with a car. So that was one of the principal comments that planning had, this whole kind of relationship and to the park and the preservation of the park for future development. It could be turned entirely into a grassy park and the hotel would still work. for access. The other items raised by the planning department are a little bit more technical in nature. One has to do with the height of the building, and I think we had a little bit of back and forth on that, but I think the building will be at the height shown for the sea level rise, which is basically an elevation of 4.75 meters. And so we'll make that adjustment in the plans to show it at 4.75 meters. There's a requirement to add loading, which we'll add again at the north end, a loading bay for trucks. And then there's a requirement that we engineer the cul-de-sac. We're putting a turnaround cul-de-sac at the north end of the building. We will have a traffic engineer design that cul-de-sac. It's right here in this plan. Here's the plan of the hotel, and there's a driveway cul-de-sac right here at the north end, so vehicles can do a turnaround there. And that's I think it's not as wide as in the town of Comox road bylaw, so we'll get it reviewed and designed by a traffic engineer to make sure that it works for fire trucks and delivery trucks and large vehicles. And then the last comment, I think, from planning is the question about overall massing of the building and this need to try to, or request in the official community plan to try to mass the building down at the third floor level, so the building kind of comes up and goes in and then goes up to the roof level. It kind of has a setback at the top of level 2, and that we will adjust in the design of the building. We'll put a setback at the northerly end so it comes up and sets in and then goes up a bit. And we'll make that change to try and make the building look smaller as you approach it. So I think that's essentially our presentation. We will try to address these comments in the final design drawings that are submitted to the city. For us, they're reasonably straightforward technical ones that we can address quite easily. The question of the positioning of the hotel rooms itself is ultimately a business question, and the project is a viable project that can go ahead into construction with the hotel units positioned on the main floor. And to be quite honest, I can't think that it would go ahead with them on the upper floors. It's just simply not viable to do it that way.
Okay. Thank you for your presentations. Questions from members of council? You'll also be receiving a presentation from our planner. We'll go ahead.
Yes, so thank you for the presentation. For the members of the public and for an old 61-year-old here, refresh my memory, how many hotel units will there be again in the current plan?
Okay. Now I'm going to refresh my memory on that count for the upper 2 floors. Here we go.
I believe it's 28.
Is it 28? Thank you. Thanks very much, Paul.
It's in the report.
It's in the report. 28 units.
38, and how many other units then on the upper floors?
The upper 2 floors are entirely for apartment units.
No.
42.
Yeah, 42 apartment units in the upper 2 floors, 28 hotel units on the main floor.
All right. I think that's it for questions, and then we'll have a presentation on this shortly. Thank you again. All right, we'll do the minutes of meetings. So first of all, the October 16th regular council meeting minutes for approval. Moved. Second. Approval then. All those in favor? That's carried. We have the whole meeting minutes for receipt of October 23rd. Receipt then. All those in favor? We had one recommendation from that coming forward tonight's meeting, the expansion of intermunicipal business license program, so that bylaw be reported to council at the first, second, and third reading. In favor? No committee reports. Page 19, we have the manager report for receipts. Second. Receipt then, all in favor? Two items on the manager report. Any questions, comments? You see that we're resubmitting under the ICE grant, so that's the staff looking there. All right, moving on then, for 1700 Balmoral Avenue, we have a development permit application and a recommendation from staff that it be issued subject to conditions listed in Schedule 1 of the planning report of the Any discussion on that? Councilor Fletcher?
Chair of the staff. You note that the original landscape plans did not comply with DPA number 3, and you refer to the on-site mitigation and post-development stormwater runoff. But indicate to us that you don't think it's of significant concern. I guess I'm always concerned about post-development stormwater runoff, so I'm wondering if you can elaborate on that and give me some comfort as to why we should be concerned about this.
Certainly. The post-development runoff will be addressed in terms of connecting into municipal stormwater management system. With the new OCP and new development permit programs, it also called for essentially exfiltration and return to groundwater on site. So it won't affect the flooding per se, but in this area, the downstream lands are highly altered, and we have a wall, so it's a highly altered landscape. In light of the fact the staff treated it as essentially a two-meter street. They were developed, plans were developed prior to that requirement coming in. The impact of that requirement is not seen as major in that area, and therefore staff went on the side of saying, in this case, given the mitigating factor that it's in stream, that it meets essentially the intent.
And just follow up, but there, perhaps the conversation with the developer at time of the new best practices or the new guidelines that we do have that would be relayed and be considered?
Yes, I mean, there would be nothing, we would definitely work with the developer, developers in the audience right now, so he's heard that. And we would, of course, work with the developer in terms of facilitating that if they so wish to do that, or the existing development without requiring an amendment.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Under bylaws, then, we have for adoption bylaw 1757, Calgary Water and Sewer Service Deputy Unit, Carson Township.
Move it. Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Motion's carried. And also on the inter-community business license bylaw, for first, second, and third reading.
Move. Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Under new business, we have an OCP amendment regarding Great Food Parent Nesting Site, DPA number 10. And the report is relatively self-explanatory, but I'll just take a moment here just to have the planner speak to that and just say how that's come about and what it relates to.
Certainly. And this is our existing development area at 10 now. Give me things that make a little more sense with this. Also, let's get that. So the subject, this came to light in regards to a development proposal on Lazo Road, at the foot of Knight Road where it drops down the hill. The applicant was submitting a development permit application in regards to eagle nests that are shown and addressed in our current development permit area number 10. At that time, the biologist in doing the report noted that a heron's nest had located immediately just south of the hill on the west side of Lazo Road, the south side of Knight Road. Apparently this is probably a relocation of the heron nest that we have recorded up in Kaibé, north of Kaibé, that we can do. So this is a nest that has been located after the introduction of development permit area number 10. To incorporate it is the proposed amendments that are before you. So it would show the heron's nest on the DPA 10, and it would include the properties to the north. The properties to the south of that hill point are already in development area because of the eagle. So that's why you only see in the proposed bylaw and the inclusion of the properties to the north.
Okay, thank you. So, any questions for the planner related to that? Seeing none, then we'll have a series of recommendations here to pass to the public hearing. First of all, that in accordance with section 879 of the Government Act, notice of the proposed OCP amendment is contained in attachment 2 of this report be placed on the town bulletin board website until replaced by notice of public hearing. A copy of the planning report will be posted on the website until replaced by notice of public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? Secondly, that the OCP amendment bylaw 1754 will go in first reading.
Move.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion's carried. And that having considered the impact on the current financial plan and the Comox Strathmore Waste Management 2012 Solid Waste Management Plan, OCP amendment bylaw number 1754 will be given second reading.
Move.
Second. All in favor? Motion's carried. And that a public hearing be scheduled for bylaw 1754.
Second.
All in favor? Motion's carried. Now, is it possible for that kind of public hearing to be held concurrent with the council meeting? Or rather than having a separate meeting?
Yeah, sure.
Unless there's another one coming up for the leaders.
We'll have a look at what's coming down the pipe.
Right, good. Okay, so we'll wait for that. So we'll move on to the next item of business, which is regarding the Waterfront Hotel auto project. So staff have brought this forward for some direction, and they have an overall recommendation. They do believe are looking for direction from council on particular issues that have been raised at the presentations earlier, but our planner does have a presentation on PowerPoint he's going to proceed with now and highlight some of the issues. Thank you.
So the subject property is two parcels, 1823 Beaufort, which goes right up to Beaufort Avenue, and then we have 1805. Under the 2010 development proposal, there was proposed to be 62 hotel units and a restaurant on 1805. This north lot was proposed to be surface parking. Under the 2013 proposal, that remains. North lot is surface parking. The building though on 1805 will be comprised of 42 apartments, 20 hotel units, and a restaurant. Just to give an idea of the flavor of the building, which you've also seen on the perspective drawing. So we have a 3-4 story, depending on where the ground floor is measured, building, and with that, we're going to get to that. Next slide. So the purpose of the report was to address a number of differences between what staff interpret as the town priorities and the current regulations and the proposal before you, and obtain guidance from council. The first being in regards to hotel unit location. Staff interpreted priority for this site as to be for a hotel use as the #1 priority. So we really saw the allowance as residential as being secondary, and the whole purpose of the residential was to increase the viability of the hotel use. In regards to that, staff identified the top two floors of the south portion of the building as being the key area for the hotel units, simply in terms of competing with other hotel units in the area. If you have 2 units, one person's looking for a room, one's got a waterfront view, the other one does not have a waterfront view. The one with the waterfront view would, you would assume, rent first. That's the basis of that. In terms of direct and indirect usage of Marina Park, This just shows the two properties, gives you the site plan, so you have the building on the southern property and surface parking. The William Park, which is right here. Parking lot and the park, they're both identified in our OCP as public open space, and of course owned by the town. Wilcox, just for orientation, is right here. Coming in, and then it would go into this turnaround area here to give access to the underground parking. In terms of surface parking on the proposed site is limited to the northern lot. So anybody on this northern lot who wants to use the surface parking to either visit somebody or use the facilities themselves would cross this extension of Wilcox, would enter the on-site pedestrian pathway at this point. The concern is in terms of the land use and the design of the building, that the southwest section of William Park provides the most direct and convenient pedestrian and parking access. The reason for that is, again, you're entering the on-site pedestrian pathway here. Part of that pathway actually is on town property, opposed to non-town property. The main pedestrian entrance for the facilities in terms of elevators to the second-story residential units, in terms of the hotel lobby and access to the restaurant is at this point. Going out into the doors, and then there is the stairs. Of course, this is right where our boat launch is. So as identified in the report, we see that as having potential for conflict with existing users, requiring us to increase regulation primarily in the parking area, and then a restriction in terms of future development. We assume that if the development does go ahead and, as an example given, that this would all be green space, there would be considerable concern in terms of access to the hotel units and the residential property.
So sorry, just to go back to that, you're saying there's a concern that people, instead of going, if they're going to the hotel units, instead of going into the underground parking area, that they'll just come along the outside park and unload their luggage and go in that way, is that what you're saying?
Primarily in terms of, there would be that aspect in terms of people checking in, but primarily in terms of members of the town that want to use the restaurant facilities. If anybody who wanted to visit the residents, and the propensity is still in the town, because we do have quite a bit of surface parking, is people go to surface parking first prior to underground parking. And really, that's your entrance, and that's where you're going up into it. Where you're going to want to park is right there.
Okay.
In regards to building height, this issue is raised in regards to sea level rise and climate change. The staff advised the applicant very early in the process that one of the things that I wanted to address with this is sea level rise and climate change, and that staff would support the increase in ground floor height to accommodate sea level rise and climate change. In relation to above average existing grade, the geotechnical report that came back to us proposed an elevation of 0.45 meters above existing average grade. Proposal is 1.9. The applicant, to my understanding, has indicated that they would build down to the 0.45. But just in terms of what the current plans before you, the difference being, see this is the east elevation on the south side of the building. So you can see that would be average existing grade. You don't have a perfectly flat site. That's why it's above existing grade at this point. And there's the proposed. On the north side of the building, you can see the difference coming in. As you go to the west side, you see a bit of more of a difference just because of the slope of the site, right? Because of course the floors are going to be the main floor will be level. That's where you're seeing that. In regards to the development permit guidelines, really it comes to tapering of the roof line and building mass and terracing of the building to achieve two primary points. One being the appearance of height. If you have sort of pyramid effect going up on a building. It draws your eye to the lower levels. It doesn't make it appear. The building height is the building height, but it doesn't appear to the pedestrian in terms of being that high. Also in terms of protection of view corridors, gives you a bit of an opening. The proposal currently sits, there is no tapering of the roof and no tapering or terracing of the stories other than on the south elevation. In terms of, there's the exterior wall here, and that will be set back 2 meters. With that, if there's any questions?
What, the loading dock has been addressed?
On the loading dock, no. So that really gets, the requirements, the parking requirements would require a loading bay. Right now, there's no loading bay proposed. This circle is, doesn't meet our current cul-de-sac turnaround circle area, so there's no real place to provide loading or parking in that area. So the concern being, if the proposal has this, drivers of trucks would seek the easiest path of least resistance. And again, if you're looking at surface parking, then you're looking at essentially in here or in here. Either way, you're going to be blocking a parking area as you load and unload, because those areas aren't designed, well, in this case, it's designed for angle parking and one-way travel. They just park there and unload.
All right, so questions, go ahead.
So Marvin, it seems to me that the proponent addressed many of these items that I thought at least showed a willingness to work with you towards a solution to these, with the sole exception possibly of the hotel being on the ground floor. Like you're asking for direction, is that? Yeah, I'm not sure what directions. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
You're really, so, let me just read this back. So what we're looking for is you're going to be working with them, and is your direction you're looking for whether you want the hotel rooms on the main floor? Or whether we're okay with that? Is that the direction you want?
That's it. Or
okay.
whether the hotel rooms should be on the top 2 floors on the south end of the building. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
But also, and the other question is in terms of direct or indirect usage of Marina Park.
Okay.
Okay.
Councilor Kenny.
Marvin, just for a term of reference, what was the height of the old Edgewater building? Do you recall that?
But it was
For comparison?
It was 2 floors with a peaked roof, so it's probably in the area from existing grade of about probably 10 meters or something.
And the proposed height here is going to be?
In the order of 14 meters as we measure it technically from average grade.
Thank you.
Councilor Tom?
Well, you know, as far as the location of the hotel rooms, you know, I think that that's something we should leave up to the proponents, because they're the ones that are investing the money and can better judge the viability of the project. I mean, you know, we know that they looked at a 62-unit hotel room, and that just wasn't viable, which was proven out through the lack of pre-sales. So I am less concerned about the hotel rooms being on the main floor than I am about the viability of the whole project. And I would tend to lean in favor of the developer in this instance, if that's going to make the project viable, other than just having this empty lot sitting down there for the next 10 years. So if that's going to help move this thing forward, I would certainly be in favor of seeing the ground floor rooms.
Just one question on that for the planner. The presenters talked earlier about an OCP amendment if the hotel rooms weren't on the main floor. How do you rationalize, because they're supposed to have commercial on the ground floor?
Yes, they're supposed to have commercial on the ground floor, so there's one option in accordance with the OCP is to use the ground floor for commercial uses, which doesn't have to be a hotel, it can be any form of commercial uses. If that's not viable, then that will require a site-specific, well, That would require an amendment to the OCP. The OCP has that in place on a site-specific basis. This site was never identified for it.
Right. But the hotel rooms on the ground floor would constitute commercial, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would agree with Tom on that. I think that that's a call that the developer should make in that case. It's their project, it's their viability, and I would be, I'm with Tom exactly if that can help move this project along. I don't see any problem with that at all.
So Patrick?
Just as far as the hotel goes, I think the community was really clear. They really do desire to see a hotel on that property, so I don't feel like I want to compromise how that might look. What I think is really important for the community to know is that this addition of residential units is a rezoning issue, and that they will certainly have their opportunity to speak to that. Because I want the community to be clear about that, that this was to be a hotel. This wasn't to be a hotel / condo unit. So just to put that in perspective. And I also want to be really clear, and perhaps staff can reiterate, that there will be no encroachment into the public open space.
The curb proposal would encroach the on-site pedestrian walkway onto the public open space, and you would have the what we identify as indirect potential for indirect encroachment in terms of users of that area using the park primarily for access and parking.
Well, just on that, I would say the community was really clear that.
Yeah, but let's be clear on this, because you said the walkway encroaches on public open space. Is that not a public walkway?
Not to my knowledge, no. It's on-site.
Perhaps you can show us on the map what you're talking about here. And I'm having a hard time figuring out where that is.
Property line essentially.
Sorry, a little louder, please.
Property line is essentially right here.
Yes.
So somebody who's entering and wants to access there on site would go here, and then they would pop over onto the town property, that would be the walkway would be, and that would go on there. Likewise, this landscaping, this portion of landscaping is all on town property.
But it's not like the building's encroaching, it's just.
Buildings are on. Yes.
All right, is that clear to everyone, Tom?
No, it's not clear to me. What's on that property right now? What is it?
Retaining wall, and then the parking lot starts.
So are they proposing to remove the retaining wall and move it over into the parking area? Or just landscaping on top of the retaining wall?
I don't know, we don't, not in that detail, just the location of it would be over property line.
But what I'm getting at, if the retaining wall's here, they're not trying to move the retaining wall over into the parking area. So we're not going to lose any parking or anything else.
I don't
Under this
believe so.
proposal?
Yeah, the concept is basically to keep that retaining wall and the planter as is.
Yeah.
And the public sidewalk is actually on the private property. Was my idea to do that little jog in the middle of it so that it's more fun and beautiful to walk along it. You'll walk along it, you'll see a tree and planting in front of you, and you'll go over the left and go along a bit more and see planting, and you go over the right and go along. And so it kind of makes it a little bit like the, if you're walked on a curving walkway through the trees, it's more fun to walk on a curving walkway.
So if need be, you could just make it straight.
We could make it straight, it would just be more boring and unpleasant to walk on it.
But that's what you want, right?
We can make it boring and unpleasant, or make it beautiful.
Well, I mean, I think if we're not going to lose any parking, if the parking that's along there is going to be maintained, and, this is an aesthetics issue, I think, that we're talking about, I don't see a problem.
I guess the other concern that's been raised is the potential for indirect use, where people may park. I mean, that's always going to be an issue, quite frankly, with that site, where whatever place you put the entrance. If you put the entrance right at the north end, there'll be still people wandering around, not looking at signs, not knowing where they're going, and they'll park on the boat ramp and unload their luggage. It's going to be an issue down there no matter what, so signage will be important. The proponents have indicated the entrance, the primary entrance will be down underneath into that elevator zone, and there they go. But human beings, what they are, they will park willy-nilly. Yeah.
So just further on that, historically, the entrance to the Edgewater was on the other side, internal. So perhaps they could just move it to the other side of the building and draw people away from the boat ramp side and have them walk along the other side of the building. But aside from that, I'd also like some clarification that that roundabout and then the access to the adjacent condominiums that are there, is that all that have been addressed and sufficient?
We would ensure that there was access to the adjacent, maintain existing access to the adjacent condominiums.
There's an easement in place. Anything else, Councillor?
I think it addressed the concern. I went to walk property there this morning, the containment walls there, what you're saying clearly is that the buildings are, there's going to be a setback between the containment wall and the building. It's not coming right to the walkway there, and they're going to maintain that public walkway for public access. And I think that's important for it to be clear for citizens to know that.
All right.
I just had one question, and staff was looking for direction.
Mhm.
Have they gotten the direction they were looking for?
Well, I guess
Or would they like clearer direction?
I guess we need a motion. The motion that's printed is that staff proceed with detailed review, etc., referencing the outstanding items. Now, that's on Schedule 1 of the report. So I think probably what we need to look at is Schedule 1 of the report and make whatever changes are necessary there. Is that
Yes.
we would do it? So Schedule 1 as amended.
That's outstanding items.
So I'll try to find that page.
69.
Thank you. So at page 69, we have revisions to this proposal, and item A is, that one would simply, if council is of the view that the location of the units is fine as proposed, then that would be deleted. Okay.
Well, I move we delete it.
Second that.
Any discussion on that? This time, and keep in mind this will, of course, go through public hearing, etc.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Motion's carried.
Yeah, we're giving direction to staff, we're not making decisions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So allowed to proceed, exactly.
Yeah.
Item B, I think they will address at a technical level. Item C, what's that one?
The tapering.
Tapering, they'll deal with that.
They talked about that.
On-site loading, they've talked about. The cul-de-sac traffic engineer thing they've talked about. And then F, I guess that's the one we've also discussed a bit here. So I think that we need to talk about how we want to deal with that one.
Well, can we not just, well, I move that staff work with, work with the proponent on this, and as long as we're not losing any parking, and we're not moving that retaining wall into a parking area, and it is a public access, right? If that area is still gonna be open to the public, considered private property with no access for
All right.
our citizens, I would move that we ask staff to work with them.
So the principles being that there be no, still no direct usage of the park. I think that's what we talked about. The indirect is probably one that's going to be one that we'll have to work on a bit more. I think council's probably clear on the fact that there should be no direct use of the park. And leaving that walkway issue to be resolved. So if we just take out the words indirect out of there, would that be sufficient? Yes, Pat?
I have some comfort with indirect in there. I think it's important to have that in the conversation. I don't, the community, this park is really important to this community. And, you know, over time, things can evolve such that an indirect use can almost come to feel like ownership, or whether it's intended or not. So I think it's a good conversation to have early on to address it and see how it might unfold.
That changes the entire configuration of this.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Well, it's up to council at this point, whether they want to leave it as direct or indirect or just direct.
I would move that we take the word indirect usage of.
Oh, sorry. Just take the words indirect out. 'cause we need-
Yeah, that's right, sorry.
So, any discussion, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? One opposed. All right, so with those amendments, I think that's sufficient for direction. And so that staff would then proceed with the detailed review and referral of the zoning, development permit, development variance permit, floodplain exemption applications in relation to these properties on the resolutions of the outstanding items in Schedule 1 as amended on this report. So we need a motion for that.
Move.
Those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, staff and opponents for your presentations. All right, so I'll move forward, and we are now at page 81. Page 81 is recommendation, report, sorry, request for advance budgeting for the yard buildings. So motion to receive the staff memo. Receive, all those in favor, motion is carried. And the second recommendation is based on this report, that staff then complete the design and tender for the project and draft a financial plan for 2014 based on the total budget cost of $1,954,243, including 10% contingency allowance on construction costs as RDH Building Engineering LTD has estimated.
Move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All right, staff. Proceed on that. Okay, we have one item, or two items of correspondence. One was the late item, but the first one is request from the Cape Lazo RV Campground for one more month of campfires.
Move receipt of the letter and the grant and permission to have their fires 1 month earlier.
And we have to do that by bylaw? Move forward by bylaw. Okay, so receive the letter and pursue, have direct staff to amend the bylaw for consideration. All right, all those in favor? Oh, sorry.
Can I just ask, so in doing that, there was some conversation with fire chief and department and they did their recon?
I would imagine that would be standard for this stuff.
The initial dates that are in the bylaw were established at the request of the previous owner of property. So that's how those came to be. So, adding a month is not a significant change.
And it seems certain members of the neighborhood are on site. They sell more marshmallows at the store. All those in favor? Motion's carried. And then lastly, this letter from the regional district, sorry, I missed it last week, but it's been brought forward to tonight's meeting. It's been referred by the water committee to water council and the city of Burton for review and any further discussion.
Motion to receive.
Second.
On receipt, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Any further discussion on that? Councilor Fletcher?
Just as a member of the water committee, I thought it was important that this letter come before council so that we can all be really clear and understand that, you know, that sometimes there's misconception about there's endless water supply out there, and I think the province has made it clear they control that resource, and they were not in favor of just allowing more water to us, and they made some recommendations of how we can do better with the existing water we have, and they've also given consideration that we would perhaps buy some water from BC Hydro. So I think it's important that we understand it all, and that that message gets out to the community, because often there's misconception out there that, and certainly on rainy days like today, we do think that there's endless water, but there is not.
On a day like today.
But there is not.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll see, and I know the water committee is working on other things there too. So keep up that work and let us know how it goes. All right, I think we voted on the seats, so that's it for now. We have then reports from members of council. We'll start with Councillor King.
Yes, on Saturday, October 26th, I was very happy to go to the Cumberland Library opening, the new Cumberland Library, along with some other members of council and the library board from the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board. On the 26th as well, I attended the Comox Valley Multicultural Society Harvest Festival in Courtney. Good turnout of a number of people in our multicultural community. On October 31st, the Recreation Department put on a wonderful Halloween event at the Comox Mall. I attended that. Friday, November 1st, the opening of the John's Independent Grocery Store, very well received, along with the mayor. Tuesday, November 5th, I attended the Comox Valley Social Planning meeting at the Lewis Center, along with some Courtney councillors who attended there, a number of local social agencies, and a very good meeting. Attended last evening the Elected Officials Appreciation Dinner hosted by a number of denominations and was much appreciated by elected officials and good camaraderie and discussions there. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you. Since we last met, I attended the World Food Week lunch presentation, lunch hour presentation for elected officials. Former Mayor, Vancouver Councillor Peter Ladner did an excellent presentation. And it was very interesting and enlightening. October 23rd, Cottonwood Lane official opening, and since then I have gone through there several times. It's a nice little piece to add to your walking or riding through the community. Committee of the Whole that day as well. On October 26th, Councillor McKinnon attended the Cumberland Library grand opening, and it was a really fun event. Cumberland was obviously, the whole community was very proud. Captain Thunderpants was doing the chicken dance, and everyone was having a good time. And October 29th, attended the CBRD board meeting. And last Wednesday, October 30th, on behalf of Councillor Swift, I attended the Philbrook Heritage Lodge Park monthly board meeting. And on Halloween evening, as a member of the BIA, I certainly participated and enjoyed the Halloween parade. It was always nice to see so many young families out Comox Ave. Thank you.
Councillor Cameron.
Yeah, I also attended the dinner that the church has put on, as you did. That was the appreciation dinner, and that was a nice dinner and a good outing, I thought. I've had several different signage and economic development meetings over the last few weeks. It seems like there's one every day as we try and get ourselves launched and raise about $95,000 so we can have a new sign. And I also attended a Downtown Business Association marketing meeting yesterday as well.
Councillor Tom.
Yeah, since we last met, I attended the Committee of the Whole meeting in this chambers. I also attended the Comox Valley Regional District Board meeting in late October, and I attended the dinner with the Comox Valley Pastors, the appreciation dinner, which was very nice and thoughtful.
All right, since I last attended the council meeting, it's been a busy October and early part of November. We're back at the beginning of October. Courtney Little Theatre had their gala opening night. I attended that. Also the Brooklyn School sale announcement, military road cycling meetings. I also missed the last council meeting as I was participating in the English Public Service Awards there. And one of the award recipients under the legacy category for long-lasting effect on public service was a fellow who was involved in the Solon River restoration from the provincial government, Denzinger. Anyway, it was a culmination of a process where I participated as part of the judging panel. The premier was there, gave a great speech, and the awards were very well received. CAO and I met with BC Ambulance representative here back on October 18th, and we've undertaken to come to council committee in January. Just give us an update on how things are going well generally. Community Foundation dinner, I know Councillor Tom Grant was there as well. And Cottonwood Lane opening photo op, and the meeting with CBEDS that we held, Councillor Grant and myself, on furthering the activities of the Economic Action Plan. And that work continues at a staff level. The Comox Region kicked off their coffee campaign on the 25th of October. And then I went down to the Vancouver Island Economic Alliance 7th Annual Economic Summit. And then I walked over 29th and 30th, participated in all the events there, great presentations and breakout sessions. The ones I attended included skills, labor, shortages, international education efforts, social media issues, and First Nations land development reports. So lots of great networking and great information. So certainly an event that I've gone to in the past. I found this one was probably one of the best ones. And again, Finger was there as a keynote speaker talking about managing and other things. And the international trade minister at the provincial level, Teresa Watt, was in town on Halloween. And so I had a chance to meet with her and her EA. Talked about some of the opportunities for investment in the Comox area. And she was quite impressed with Salish Seafoods, our local businesses, of course, with First Nations involvement. So she's off to on a trade mission to China in a couple weeks. So see what opportunities come back. Also, the fellow from Coastal Black, Abel Wren, will be going on that trade mission as well to Hong Kong. So some of our businesses are out there punching well above their weight class in the world trade. Good to see. Opening of the John's Independent Grocery was mentioned. Also attended the Art Gallery's Masquerade Ball along with the other mayors, and that was a great event. Lots of funds were raised for the Art Gallery. A great cause, along with some of the other activities such as the Child Development Center telephone, of course, that was this past Sunday, and they did very well. Helped man the phone the first hour along with the other mayors in our area. And then they had a Veterans Memorial Concert right next door, so I went to that for a little bit. On Monday, I met with the new CEO of Compliance Gold, Stephen Ellis, and he indicated that they're going to be resubmitting their application to the provincial government for environmental review in early 2014, and I said that if you wanted to update us on that as it comes, he'd certainly come to council, give us a presentation. So maybe we'll do that sometime in the new year. Island Health had a leadership forum last night before the church's dinner, and they presented their work that they're doing on their strategic plan for the next 5 years. And so they're soliciting our input as mayors and councillors and so on, all around issues of innovation and sustainability, of course. And I indicated that our main concerns for Comox were essentially around the future role of St. Joseph's. So encourage them to continue or get going on their discussions with St. Joseph's and their board, and of course the hospice funding issue as well. So I did explain that we were quite pleased to be offering lots of recreation and parks amenities, which hopefully will on a preventative basis reduce the healthcare costs. And if they ever had any money for something like that to help us do more, we'd certainly appreciate the amount of their $2 billion budget that they have for the whole line. But we'll see where that goes. They're looking, as I say, a higher level plan of what their strategy for dealing with the always challenging issue of healthcare. So we wish them well on that. And then the church's dinner was a great conclusion to yesterday. So that's my report. We dealt with the late item. Any media questions? Oh,
Not even here.
We bored them to tears. Questions from members of the public? Okay. So that being our agenda, we're motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved. Second.
Favor? Motion's carried.